My daughter and her husband laughed as they left me in a small Italian town. "Let's see how the old man gets home," they teased as they drove away. I didn't return. A month later, they found me in France, where I was living a life they couldn't imagine. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. Glenn's wine glass hit the mahogany table with a sharp crack. "Old man, your only value is your bank account." My hands froze mid-motion, dinner plates suspended between kitchen and dining room. The silence stretched like a held breath. Even the grandfather clock seemed to pause. "Why did Daddy say that about Grandpa?" Lily's voice cut through the tension, innocent and confused. I set the plates down carefully, my engineer's precision masking the tremor in my fingers. 20 minutes earlier, I'd been humming while arranging Patricia's favorite roast beef, hoping this dinner might bridge the growing distance between us. "Glenn, please." Patricia's voice carried that familiar tone, not defending me, just managing embarrassment. My daughter lounged on Margaret's antique sofa, scrolling through Instagram photos of Italian villas while I served the meal I'd spent 3 hours preparing. Her burgundy dress, designer surely, cost more than some people's monthly rent. Glenn sprawled in my leather armchair like he owned it, already halfway through my 1998 Bordeaux. Tommy looked up from his Legos scattered across the Persian rug. "Grandpa makes the best mashed potatoes." His gap-toothed grin reminded me why I endured these visits. "At least make yourself useful with that money," Glenn muttered, refilling his glass without asking. I'd worked 42 years as a structural engineer, calculating stress points and load-bearing capacity. Now I understood how bridges felt before they collapsed. Patricia showed Lily a photo of rolling Tuscan hills. "Wouldn't this be amazing, sweetheart? A real European vacation." "We've been struggling lately, Dad." She glanced up from her phone with practiced vulnerability. "Glenn's company is restructuring, and the kids deserve better than another summer stuck in Seattle." "Mom, can we see the Leaning Tower?" Tommy abandoned his Legos, excitement bubbling over. I watched Glenn smirk as he drained my wine. "The children would love Italy," I said quietly. "How much would such a trip cost?" Patricia's eyes lit up, not with gratitude, but with the gleam of a fisherman feeling a bite. "Well, for a proper villa in Tuscany, flights for all of us, spending money, maybe 40,000, 50. The number hung in the air like smoke, half my annual retirement income. "I could check my savings," I heard myself say. Glenn leaned forward, suddenly interested. "Really? You'd do that for us?" Not for you, I thought, for Tommy's wonder at ancient Roman history, for Lily's excited questions about Renaissance art, for the hope that somewhere in those Tuscan hills, my daughter might remember she once loved her father. "The kids would have the time of their lives," Patricia added, her manipulation wrapped in maternal concern. I looked at my grandchildren, Tommy already sketching Italian landmarks on a napkin, Lily practicing ciao with theatrical flair. Their joy was real, even if their parents' motives weren't. "When would you want to travel?" I asked. Glenn's triumph was barely concealed. "Next week would work, Memorial Day vacation. I could take extended time off, given the circumstances." Next week, of course. Emergency generosity always demanded immediate action. "I'll look into booking something," I said, watching Patricia's Instagram post forming in real time, a villa photo with the caption, "Dreaming of Tuscany." They left an hour later, Glenn's Mercedes disappearing into the Seattle rain. I stood in my doorway, watching taillights fade, surrounded by empty wine glasses and Lily's forgotten crayon drawing of our house. The silence felt different now, heavier. I picked up Lily's drawing, studying her careful purple crayon strokes spelling Grandpa's house beneath a crooked chimney. Her stick figure version of me stood in the garden, smiling, surrounded by flowers Margaret had planted 15 years ago. The wine glass slipped from my trembling hands, shattering against the kitchen sink. Crystal fragments scattered like my thoughts, sharp and impossible to reassemble. 11 o'clock. The house echoed differently when empty, every footstep amplified, every settling beam a conversation with ghosts. I found Margaret's cookbook still open to family Sunday dinners, her handwriting in the margins. "Edwin loves extra gravy," and "Patricia always asks for seconds." When had Patricia stopped asking for seconds? When had she stopped laughing at my engineering jokes, helping with dishes, calling just to chat? The change had been gradual, like erosion, imperceptible until the foundation cracked. I walked to my study, laptop humming to life. Tuscany villa rentals filled the screen, stone farmhouses with infinity pools, vineyards stretching toward medieval towns. The numbers were staggering. 50,000 might be conservative. But my retirement account showed careful decades of compound interest, disciplined saving, minimal risk investments. Margaret and I had planned these golden years together: cruises, grandchildren's college funds, maybe a small cabin in the mountains. I pulled out her photograph from the desk drawer, Margaret at 45, laughing during our anniversary dinner, wine-flushed and radiant. "What would you do?" I whispered to her frozen smile. The house seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Patricia hadn't always been cruel. I remembered teenage years when she'd curl up beside me during documentaries about ancient civilizations, asking questions about Roman engineering. She'd inherited my precision, my love of understanding how things worked. Glenn had changed that equation. Maybe in Italy, away from their routine. I spoke aloud, testing the theory. Maybe the kids' excitement will remind them what family means. Margaret's jewelry box sat untouched on the dresser, exactly as she'd left it 3 years ago. Inside, her wedding ring caught lamplight. 43 years of partnership, of shared dreams and gentle compromises. I'd compromise again. For Tommy's gap-toothed grin, for Lily's artistic soul, for the slim chance that Tuscan sunsets might soften Patricia's heart, remind her that love wasn't transactional. My fingers found the villa website. Villa Benedetta, historic 16th century estate. 6 bedrooms, professional kitchen, olive groves, swimming pool. Available Memorial Day week for $38,000. The booking form required immediate payment. I typed credit card numbers, watching my careful financial planning unravel with each digit. The confirmation email arrived instantly. "Thank you for your reservation. Benvenuti in Toscana." I forwarded the details to Patricia before I could reconsider, watching the email disappear into cyberspace like a message in a bottle. Immediately I wanted to unsend it, but Tommy's drawing still lay on my desk. That purple house, that smiling grandfather, those carefully drawn flowers in Margaret's garden. Maybe love required risk. Maybe trust demanded vulnerability. My phone buzzed. "Dad, you're amazing. The kids will be thrilled." No mention of Glenn's insults, no acknowledgement of the sacrifice, just efficient gratitude, already moving to logistics. I closed the laptop and walked to bed, leaving Lily's drawing on my pillow. Outside, Seattle rain tapped against windows like impatient fingers, counting down the days until I'd discover what $50,000 of hope could buy. 5 days of frantic preparation blurred together, researching child-friendly Italian museums, downloading translation apps, fielding Patricia's demanding calls about villa amenities. Glenn complained about early flight times while I arranged airport shuttles and confirmed reservations. At SeaTac, I found them huddled near Gate B7, designer luggage forming a protective barrier. Patricia waved me over with false brightness. "Dad," perfect timing, small hiccup with the seating. She thrust boarding passes at me without meeting my eyes. The airline had some mix-up. I studied the tickets. First class for Patricia and Glenn. Economy for me, with Tommy and Lily in adjacent seats. "Must be a computer error," I said slowly. "I booked us all together." Glenn's laugh was sharp. "Mistakes happen, old man. Nothing we can do now." Patricia busied herself with her phone. "You don't mind, do you, Dad? The kids will love having your attention." The lie tasted bitter in the recycled air. But Tommy tugged my sleeve, eyes bright with adventure. "Grandpa, can you sit by us? Mom and Dad always work on flights anyway." "Of course, buddy." I forced a smile, pocketing the tickets. Boarding call echoed through the gate area. Patricia and Glenn disappeared behind the first-class curtain, while I helped the children find our cramped economy seats. The flight attendant's sympathetic glance suggested she'd witnessed this family dynamic before. "Why aren't Mom and Dad with us?" Lily asked as I helped her buckle the safety belt. "They needed quiet space for important calls," I lied smoothly. "We'll have more fun back here anyway." 7 hours stretched ahead. I distracted the children with stories about Roman aqueducts and Renaissance artists, sharing airplane snacks and drawing games on cocktail napkins. They giggled at my terrible Italian pronunciation, correcting me with authority gleaned from cartoon shows. Through gaps in the first-class curtain, I glimpsed Patricia and Glenn's champagne service, their reclining seats, their private conversations punctuated by laughter. "Grandpa, you're more fun than Mom and Dad anyway," Tommy declared during our third round of tic-tac-toe. The flight attendant brought extra cookies for the children, charmed by Tommy's endless questions about airplane mechanics. "Your grandfather is wonderful with you," she whispered to Lily. As we crossed the Atlantic, I overheard Glenn's booming voice through the curtain. Free vacation, free villa, even free babysitting. The old man's finally useful for something. Their laughter carried clearly over the engine noise. Lily looked up from her coloring book. "Mom says you're stingy sometimes, but you bought us this whole trip." Children's honesty cuts deeper than adult cruelty. I stared through the curtain gap, watching Patricia post an Instagram photo of champagne glasses with the caption, "Living our best life at 35,000 feet." No mention of father or grandchildren funding their luxury. The plane descended toward Rome as dawn painted the clouds gold. Patricia and Glenn emerged from first class, refreshed and radiant, while I helped exhausted children gather scattered belongings. "How was economy, Dad?" Patricia asked with performative concern. "Educational," I replied, watching Glenn count his champagne receipts like trophies. At baggage claim, reunion felt forced. The children chattered excitedly about Italian adventures, while Patricia complained about delayed luggage, and Glenn immediately planned dinner reservations that would require adult time. Standing in Leonardo da Vinci Airport's chaos, surrounded by Italian announcements and the scent of espresso, I felt something shift inside my chest. The evidence was clear now: the separated seating, the champagne celebration, the casual cruelty. But Tommy slipped his small hand into mine, and Lily asked if we could see gladiator armor in real museums. Their love remained pure, untainted by their parents' manipulation. Maybe this trip would change everything. Maybe Tuscan beauty would transform us all. Or maybe I was about to discover exactly how much $50,000 of betrayal cost. The taxi wound through cypress-lined hills toward Villa Benedetta, golden afternoon light painting the Tuscan landscape like a Renaissance masterpiece. Tommy pressed his face against the window, pointing at ancient stone towers dotting distant hilltops. "Grandpa, are those real castles?" "Medieval fortresses," I explained, my engineer's mind appreciating their strategic placement. "Built to control trade routes through—" "Dad, can you pay the driver?" Patricia interrupted, already photographing the villa's iron gates for Instagram. "We need to get settled before the light changes." I handed over euros while Glenn surveyed the property with a property assessor's eye. "Not bad for what you're paying, old man." Villa Benedetta exceeded even the website photos. Honey-colored stone walls embraced manicured gardens. Olive groves stretched toward distant mountains, and a crystalline pool reflected the afternoon sky. The children raced ahead, their laughter echoing off ancient stones. "Glenn and I need the master suite," Patricia declared before we'd crossed the threshold. "We're adults. We need our space." She claimed the room overlooking the vineyard, its private terrace and marble bathroom fit for royalty. I accepted the smallest quarters near the kitchen, originally designed for household staff. The irony wasn't lost on me. Glenn discovered the wine cellar immediately. "Premium stuff. Hope you're not planning to hoard it." That evening, I prepared dinner while Patricia staged Instagram photos throughout the villa. "Dad, you're blocking the sunset shot," she called from the terrace where she posed with a wine glass I'd filled. "Kitchen duty calls anyway," Glenn added, settling into a lounge chair. "Make yourself useful." Tommy helped me chop vegetables while Lily set the table with careful precision. Their enthusiasm filled the kitchen with warmth that their parents' presence consistently drained. "Grandpa, this place is like a fairy tale." Lily twirled around the stone kitchen, her joy infectious. At dinner, Glenn complained about Wi-Fi speed, while Patricia documented every dish for social media. Neither acknowledged the hours I'd spent shopping at the local market, translating Italian labels, creating their perfect Tuscan experience. The next morning, Glenn's voice carried across the villa at 6 a.m. "Old man, breakfast isn't going to make itself." I stood in the kitchen cracking eggs while laughter drifted from the master bedroom. Each crack echoed something breaking inside my chest. Not hope exactly, but perhaps the last remnants of illusion. Through the window, I noticed another villa nestled among olive trees. An elderly couple sat on their terrace, sharing morning coffee and easy conversation. The woman waved when she caught me watching. I raised my hand in tentative greeting. Maybe I wasn't completely alone in this Tuscan paradise after all. Dawn was breaking over the Tuscan hills as I packed snacks and printed museum maps for our Florence expedition. The children's excitement had kept me awake, planning routes through the Uffizi that would capture their imaginations without overwhelming young attention spans. Glenn emerged demanding coffee and croissants. "This better be worth the early start, old man." Patricia appeared with shopping lists, designer boutiques she'd researched, restaurants that would photograph well. She'd mapped her own Florence, one measured in Instagram opportunities rather than Renaissance masterpieces. The drive into Florence should have been magical. Medieval towers pierced the morning mist. The Duomo's dome dominated the skyline, and the Arno reflected ancient bridges like liquid gold. But Glenn complained about the rental car's size, while Patricia worried about parking near luxury shops. At the Uffizi, Tommy and Lily gasped at Botticelli's Birth of Venus. I explained how Renaissance artists mixed science with beauty, how mathematical precision created emotional impact. Their questions tumbled over each other. Why did Venus look sad? How did they make gold look so real in paint? Patricia scrolled through her phone, bored. Glenn had vanished entirely. "Where's Daddy?" Lily asked during lunch at a cafe overlooking the Duomo. "Important business call," Patricia answered automatically, though she seemed uncertain herself. The shopping district revealed Patricia's true Florence itinerary. Designer bags, silk scarves, jewelry that cost more than most people's monthly salary. My credit cards emerged repeatedly, each transaction another small bleeding of my retirement security. "This is investment fashion, Dad," Patricia justified, while purchasing a handbag worth more than my monthly utilities. Quality pieces hold their value. Glenn reappeared for dinner, expansive and slightly drunk. "Successful day all around," he announced, clapping me on the shoulder with false camaraderie. The restaurant bill included charges I didn't recognize, expensive wine consumed during lunch, when Glenn claimed to be on business calls. A casino transaction caught my attention. 2,047 charged to my card at 2:30 p.m. "Mistake with the bill," I mentioned to the waiter. Glenn's face hardened. "Everything's correct, old man. Don't embarrass us over small details." Small details. Nearly 3,000 euros in gambling losses, charged to my account while I showed my grandchildren priceless art. Back at the villa that evening, I found the elderly couple from the neighboring property walking their small dog past our garden. They introduced themselves as Linda and Sidney Gibson, retired teachers from New York who'd moved to Tuscany 5 years earlier. Wonderful to meet fellow Americans. Linda's warmth felt like sunshine after a cold day. "How are you enjoying your vacation?" I mentioned the villa, the family visit, but something in my voice must have conveyed more than words. Sydney's eyes sharpened with concern. Family vacations can be complicated. Their simple kindness nearly undid me. When had anyone last asked about my well-being without wanting something in return? Tuesday morning, Patricia emerged from her room with uncharacteristic energy. "Dad, let me handle all the airport arrangements for Thursday. You're not great with online systems." Her sudden helpfulness should have raised red flags. Instead, I felt grateful for the assistance, believing perhaps our Florence trip had sparked some familial warmth. "The flight details are complicated," she continued, settling at my laptop. "Departure times, gate changes, let me organize everything." Glenn lounged nearby, unusually relaxed for someone who typically criticized every aspect of our accommodations. "Take a break, old man. Let Patricia handle the technical stuff." I surrendered my passport and travel documents gratefully, believing their offers to help represented growth in our relationship. Patricia's fingers flew across the keyboard with suspicious expertise for someone claiming technological incompetence. 10 a.m. departure Thursday, she announced. "I'll handle check-in, boarding passes, everything. You just need to be ready." That evening, I prepared a special farewell dinner. Osso buco with risotto Milanese, using recipes I'd researched specifically for this trip. The children helped enthusiastically, Tommy grinding parmesan, while Lily arranged flowers from the villa's garden. "I don't want to leave, Grandpa," Lily confessed while stirring risotto. "This has been the best vacation ever." Tommy nodded vigorously. "Can we come back next year, please?" Their genuine sadness about departure contrasted sharply with their parents' obvious eagerness to finalize travel arrangements. Glenn spent the evening on my laptop, occasionally laughing at something on the screen. Just checking flight statuses, he explained when I offered assistance. Everything's under control. Wednesday night, I lay in my narrow staff quarters bed, listening to muffled conversations from the master suite. Patricia and Glenn were clearly planning something, but I assumed it involved surprise arrangements, perhaps a nice restaurant at the airport, or upgraded seats for the return journey. Their thoughtfulness moved me. Maybe this trip had achieved its purpose after all. Maybe Tuscany's magic had reminded us we were family. I set my alarm for 7 a.m., wanting extra time to pack the children's souvenirs carefully. A hand-carved wooden puppet for Tommy, a silk scarf with Botticelli prints for Lily. Small tokens of our shared adventure. Through my window, the Gibsons' villa showed warm lights in their kitchen. Tomorrow I'd be back in Seattle, but perhaps we'd stay in touch. Their friendship felt like an unexpected gift. I fell asleep planning our departure, completely unaware that while I dreamed of future family vacations, Patricia and Glenn were finalizing the details of my abandonment. My alarm pierced the pre-dawn quiet at 6 a.m. Through my small window, Tuscan hills emerged from morning mist like a watercolor painting coming to life. Today we'd return to Seattle, carrying memories I hoped might heal our fractured family bonds. I packed the children's souvenirs with engineer's precision, Tommy's wooden Pinocchio wrapped in tissue paper, Lily's silk Botticelli scarf nestled between soft clothing layers. Each item represented shared wonder, moments when art and history had bridged generational gaps. Breakfast felt different. Patricia buzzed with nervous energy while Glenn seemed unusually jovial, almost celebratory. The children were subdued, reluctant to leave their Tuscan paradise. "Remember, Dad, I'm handling all the travel arrangements," Patricia reminded me, collecting passports and tickets. "You just need to be ready by 8. Her efficiency impressed me. Perhaps responsibility for family logistics had sparked some maternal growth. The drive to Florence airport passed quickly. Patricia sat beside me, checking documents repeatedly, while Glenn entertained the children with stories about American adventures awaiting them. Their excitement felt forced, theatrical. At the terminal, I approached the check-in counter confidently. "Fisher family, departing for Seattle." The airline clerk's brow furrowed as she scanned my boarding pass. "Mi dispiace, signore, but your ticket shows yesterday's departure." "That's impossible." I examined the document. May 27th. Yesterday. There must be some mistake. Behind me, Patricia gasped theatrically. "Oh, Dad, what a terrible computer error." Glenn's concern sounded rehearsed. How could the system glitch like that? But I noticed their luggage was already checked, their boarding passes pristine and ready. My engineer's mind began calculating impossibilities. I hadn't booked this ticket. Patricia had organized everything. "Grandpa, what's wrong?" Tommy tugged my jacket, sensing adult tension. "Just a small problem, buddy." I forced calm into my voice while my world tilted sideways. Patricia's urgency increased. "We can't miss our flight. The kids have school Monday." "Non posso aiutare senza documenti validi," the clerk explained helplessly. "I can't help without valid documents." "But we'll miss the plane," Lily started crying, clinging to my leg. Patricia pulled her away firmly. "Mommy will figure something out from Seattle, sweetheart." Glenn couldn't suppress his satisfaction any longer. "Maybe this will teach you something about planning ahead, old man." His laughter cut through airport noise like broken glass. "Come on, kids." Patricia dragged them toward security. "We'll sort this out once we're home." "I don't want to leave Grandpa." Tommy's screams echoed through the terminal as Glenn physically carried him away. They disappeared through security while I stood frozen, still holding my invalid ticket. Around me, Italian families reunited with joy while I discovered the depth of my own family's betrayal. My phone showed 10 a.m. Their flight was boarding. I tried calling, straight to voicemail. Every number, every attempt. In the airport cafe, nursing bitter espresso, I finally understood. This wasn't a mistake. They had planned this moment, orchestrated my abandonment with precision that would have impressed my engineering colleagues. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a number I'd hoped never to need, Sydney Gibson. "Edwin, what's wrong?" Sydney's voice carried immediate concern before I'd spoken a word. They left me. The words felt foreign, impossible. At the airport, my ticket was changed to yesterday. Silence stretched across the connection. Then Linda's voice in the background. "We're coming to get you." "Stay exactly where you are," Sydney commanded. "We'll be there in 90 minutes. I sat in that cafe, watching families embrace arriving relatives, calculating how carefully my abandonment had been planned. Patricia's helpful document organization, Glenn's mysterious satisfaction, their prepared luggage, ready boarding passes, theatrical shock. 42 years of engineering had taught me to analyze structural failures. This collapse had been methodical, deliberate. The Gibsons found me staring at cold coffee, still clutching my useless boarding pass. Linda wrapped me in a grandmother's fierce hug, while Sydney gathered my luggage with gentle efficiency. "Those people aren't family," Linda declared as we drove through Tuscan countryside. "Family doesn't abandon each other in foreign countries." Their villa welcomed me like a sanctuary. Clean guest room, family photos showing genuine affection, dinner where I was treated as honored guest rather than unwanted burden. When Linda asked, "When did you last feel safe?" I couldn't remember. The next morning, Sydney drove me to the American consulate in Florence. "Emergency travel document," he explained to sympathetic staff. "His family stole his passport and abandoned him." "This happens more than you'd think," the consular officer admitted sadly. "Financial abuse of elderly relatives." Financial abuse. The term crystallized everything. The casino charges, Patricia's expensive shopping, Glenn's wine consumption, my role as unpaid servant and ATM. That evening, I called my bank from Sydney's study. "Mr. Fisher, thank goodness you're safe," my account manager exclaimed. "Your daughter filed a missing person report, requesting emergency access to your accounts." The room spun slightly. Phase 2 of their plan. Leave me stranded, declare me missing, gain control of my assets. "Revoke all authorizations immediately," I instructed, my engineer's precision returning. "Everything Patricia Harrison or Glenn Harrison might access." "Done, sir. Is there anything else we can help you with?" "Yes." My voice carried new steel. "I want to speak with your international property division." Sydney arranged a meeting with an Italian lawyer specializing in financial fraud. "Signor Fisher," Attorney Rossi explained, "what they did constitutes international abandonment and fraud. You have many legal options." For the first time since the airport, I smiled. "Tell me about all of them." Attorney Rossi spread documents across his Florence office like battle plans. "Italian law is very clear about financial fraud," he explained. "Your daughter's actions constitute theft by deception." I absorbed every detail with engineering thoroughness. International banking regulations, power of attorney revocation procedures, property rights across jurisdictions. My abandoned family had unknowingly handed me a comprehensive legal arsenal. "The beauty," Rossi continued, "is that everything can be handled remotely. You need never return to America if you choose not to. Return to America. To that empty house where Margaret's ghost haunted every room, where Patricia's demands had replaced daughter's love, where Glenn's contempt poisoned family dinners. I want to explore European property investment," I told him. Back at the Gibson Villa, I systematically dismantled Patricia and Glenn's financial safety net. Phone calls to banks, mortgage companies, credit card services. 42 years of meticulously built credit and financial responsibility, all revoked with engineers' precision. "All cosign loans are now your sole responsibility," I informed the mortgage company. "Remove my guarantees from Patricia Harrison's accounts." "Mr. Fisher," the bank officer asked, "are you certain? This will leave them without financial backing." "They made their choice," I replied. "Let them face the consequences." Linda brought coffee while I monitored Patricia's social media from Sydney's laptop. Her posts had shifted from Tuscany dreams to family emergency, prayers needed. The financial panic was beginning. My phone rang constantly. Patricia, Glenn, unknown Seattle numbers. I let every call go to voicemail, listening later to their progression from confusion to anger to desperation. "Dad, call us back. There's been some mistake with the bank accounts." "Old man, you better fix this mess immediately." "Please, Dad, we need to talk." Each message revealed their crumbling world. Credit cards declined, mortgage payments rejected, their house of cards collapsing without my financial foundation. Sydney found me that evening reviewing French property listings on my laptop. "Provence," he mused, examining photos of stone farmhouses nestled among lavender fields. Linda and I looked there before choosing Tuscany. It's beautiful. I clicked through virtual tours of a renovated 18th century manor house near Aix-en-Provence. Gardens Margaret would have loved. Stone terraces perfect for morning coffee. Neighbors who would judge me by character rather than bank balance. The seller's motivated, I noted, reading property details. Recently reduced price. European markets favor cash buyers, Sydney observed, especially Americans with clean financial histories. I pulled up my banking app, calculating liquid assets. The house sale in Seattle would complete my escape fund. Patricia and Glenn had wanted me gone from their lives. They were about to get exactly what they'd asked for. I clicked Schedule Virtual Tour and watched the confirmation email arrive. Tomorrow I'd explore my new future, while they grappled with consequences of their choices. The morning sun painted Tuscan hills gold as I signed the final documents for my Seattle house sale. 43 years of memories reduced to electronic signatures and wire transfer confirmations. Sydney watched from across his study as I closed my laptop with engineer's finality. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. My phone buzzed before I could answer. Bank of America, confirming Patricia's blocked access to our joint credit account. None whatsoever. The calls came methodically throughout the day, each institution reporting successful execution of my instructions. Credit cards terminated, mortgage guarantees revoked, investment account access eliminated. 4 decades of meticulously built financial scaffolding systematically dismantled with engineers' precision. Linda brought coffee while I conducted the virtual tour of my Provence villa. "Monsieur Fischer, cette villa est parfaite pour votre retirement." The French agent's enthusiasm radiated through the laptop screen. Stone walls bathed in Mediterranean light. Lavender fields stretching toward snow-capped mountains. Infinity pool reflecting endless sky. "The seller is motivated," he continued. "Previous owner returning to Paris unexpectedly. I'll take it." The decision felt inevitable, like solving an equation with only one logical solution. "Transfer the deposit immediately." Sydney leaned forward. "Edwin, are you absolutely certain about this step?" I authorized the wire transfer with steady fingers. They wanted me gone from their lives. I'm simply accommodating their wishes. Afternoon brought confirmation of the French property purchase. Evening delivered Patricia's first panicked voicemail. "Dad, something's wrong with the credit cards. Call me back immediately." I listened to each subsequent message with growing satisfaction. Her confusion evolved into panic into desperation. Glenn's voice joined hers, demanding explanations for system errors that weren't errors at all. "The bank says you revoked everything?" Patricia's voice cracked through the phone speaker. "Where are you? This isn't funny anymore." But I found their distress deeply amusing. They'd calculated my worth purely in financial terms. Now they were discovering what life looked like without that foundation. My Seattle house sale completed with suburban efficiency. Childhood home where Margaret and I had planned our future, where Patricia had once helped with homework and laughed at my engineering jokes, all converted to liquid assets for my European escape. The final voicemail arrived near midnight. "Dad, please, we need to talk. The house payments, the kids' school, everything's falling apart." I deleted it without finishing. Tomorrow I'd drive to Provence, beginning a life they'd never imagined I possessed the courage to claim. The 6-hour drive from Tuscany to Provence unfolded like a geography lesson in possibility. Alpine peaks gave way to rolling hills dotted with medieval villages, each kilometer carrying me further from the man who'd served Sunday dinners to ungrateful family. Villa Saint-Antoine nestled among lavender fields like a jewel in purple velvet. 18th century stone walls embraced courtyards where fountain water caught afternoon light, while Infinity Pool seemed to merge with distant mountains. The French agent, Monsieur Dubois, greeted me with keys and genuine warmth. "Bienvenue chez vous, Monsieur Fischer. Welcome home." Home. The word felt foreign after years of living as an unwelcome guest in my own house. Within days, routine emerged. Morning coffee on the terrace overlooking Lavender Rose. Afternoon reading in the study with mountain views. Evening strolls through the village where merchants greeted me with patient French lessons disguised as daily commerce. "Bonjour, Monsieur Edwin," called Madame Rousseau from her bakery. "The usual croissants today?" Her genuine smile contrasted sharply with Patricia's performative politeness. These people valued my presence, not my bank balance. The American expat community welcomed me with surprising warmth. Thursday dinners at the cafe, weekend hiking groups, book clubs where my engineering background proved surprisingly relevant to discussions about technical innovation in literature. "You seem different from when you arrived," observed Helena, a retired teacher from Boston during our weekly coffee. "More peaceful." I monitored Patricia's social media from my study, watching her carefully curated crisis unfold. Going through difficult family times, she posted beneath a photo of Tommy's soccer game, grateful for friends' support during this challenging period. No mention of abandoning her father in a foreign country. No acknowledgement of the casino gambling or expensive shopping sprees. Just vague appeals for sympathy from people who didn't know the truth. Glenn's posts grew more aggressive. Sometimes family lets you down when you need them most. His anger radiated through the screen, confirming his growing desperation. I felt complex emotions watching their struggle, satisfaction at justice served, but also unexpected relief at my liberation from their toxicity. For the first time in years, I woke without calculating how to avoid their demands. My new French phone number remained pristine, uncontaminated by their panic. Tomorrow I'd cancel my American line completely, severing the final technological thread connecting me to that previous life. That evening, I called the Gibson couple to share my progress. "You sound happy," Linda observed. "Really happy." She was right. I was. Morning coffee tasted especially perfect on the terrace overlooking my lavender fields. 3 weeks in Provence had taught me what peace felt like. No footsteps overhead demanding service. No voices calculating my usefulness. No tension knotting my shoulders against inevitable criticism. A taxi wound up my drive, disrupting the silence with unwelcome familiarity. Patricia and Glenn emerged like refugees from a financial war zone. Wrinkled clothes, exhausted faces, desperate energy that even French countryside couldn't soften. They'd tracked me down through international property records, bank transactions, whatever digital breadcrumbs my new life had left. "Dad!" Patricia's theatrical relief couldn't mask her calculation. "Thank goodness you're safe. We've been so worried." Glenn attempted humility like an ill-fitting costume. "Look, old man, maybe we can put the past behind us and start fresh." I invited them for coffee with the same politeness I'd shown demanding customers during my engineering career. Professional courtesy, nothing more. "Impressive place," Glenn admitted, surveying my terrace with obvious envy. "Must have cost a fortune." It did. I poured coffee into French porcelain cups. "But I had savings you were unaware of." Patricia launched into her prepared performance. "Dad, we know there was confusion at the airport, but..." "Confusion?" I set down my cup with engineer's precision. "You changed my ticket to the previous day. You collected my documents under false pretenses. You abandoned me in a foreign country while gambling away my money and shopping with my credit cards." Their shock was genuine. They'd assumed I'd remain the confused, helpless victim they'd created. That's not how it happened," Patricia stammered. "You're right." My voice carried 42 years of structural analysis applied to human behavior. "It was worse. You planned it. You used my grandchildren as emotional leverage. You turned my love into weakness and my generosity into exploitation." Glenn's facade cracked completely. "Fine, so what? You deserved it. Selfish old man, hoarding money while your family struggled." "Struggled?" I laughed, surprising myself with genuine amusement. "Your struggle was convincing me to fund your lifestyle while treating me like hired help." Patricia tried one final manipulation. "Think about Tommy and Lily. They need their grandfather." The knife found its mark, but I'd learned to accept necessary pain. "You made that choice for them, and for me." Their desperate negotiations filled the morning air. Promises of changed behavior, threats of legal action, appeals to family loyalty they'd never shown me. I listened with the patience I'd once reserved for difficult engineering problems. "What do you want from us?" Glenn finally demanded. "Nothing." The word carried absolute finality. "You wanted me gone from your lives. Congratulations, you succeeded completely." The taxi waited to return them to their crisis. I walked them to the gate, noting how my lavender perfumed the air even during this bitter farewell. "This isn't over," Glenn shouted as they climbed into the back seat. But it was. I watched their taxi disappear down the village road, carrying away the last remnants of my old life. My coffee was still warm when I returned to the terrace. That afternoon, I called the Gibson couple to share the outcome, then walked to the village market for ingredients for bouillabaisse. Madame Rousseau asked about my visitors with French directness. "Family from America," I explained simply. "Ah, famille," she nodded knowingly. "Sometimes we must choose which family deserves our love." Evening painted the mountains purple while I prepared dinner in my stone kitchen. No voices demanded service. No criticism poisoned the air. No one calculated my worth in monetary terms. I'd lost grandchildren I adored, but gained something more precious, myself. The lavender fields whispered in the evening breeze, reminding me that some flowers bloom best when transplanted to better soil. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.